Hello, it's my pleasure to welcome you once again to the hot seat on MCL television. Today, we have in the studio an expert in political history and international relations, and he is Dr. Mike Dike of the University of Calabar. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our studio, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
My name is Chimdi Olwoha, and Mike, 2023 elections are already beginning to ring the bells, and politicians are beginning to do some works behind the scene to prepare themselves for the election. What are your expectations?
Thank you very much. Actually, it is a little bit late. It's a little bit late for them to begin to do some jigsaw behind the scene. Late because of all these litigations going on. If not for the litigations, I think immediately after any election, the next election starts taking place. That is, people begin to align and realign in order to make for the next one, since the present one is already running. So as far as Nigeria is concerned, I think, let us say, considering our background, yes, for us to start now is not late, because the litigations have already taken a big toll on our timing. So from now onwards, we should start talking about the next elections, no matter when it will take place, whether it will take place.
Whether it will take place?
I am saying.
Are you suggesting that it may not take place? What do you mean by whether it will take place?
Thank you very much. You see, when you talk about elections, you are talking about human beings in action. And you are equally talking about making choices for leadership. As far as that is concerned, you do not predict the human being. You do not predict the situation. Anything can happen tomorrow, and we say, let us extend it by 1 year.
Well, let's see how it goes. But looking at the political parties and how things are playing out, going by the past, what had happened in the past, you are a historian.
Yeah.
And a political historian at that.
That's true.
Do you think that the parties are really ready and doing the right things preparatory to 2023?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because they appear as if they are bickering at each other, leaving the real thing they should have done. They should have started by now to align themselves, in fact, to align and realign. This is exactly the time for them to align and realign. Aligning simply means looking for those who have the same inclination with you, and then realigning means leaving the place you were and moving to another place. These are the things politicians are supposed to be doing by this very time. But from all indications, they appear to be carried away by whatever the winnings of the past. They are carried away by the winnings of the past, and they are not thinking seriously about the next elections, which will come up maybe in the next 3.5 years. That's exactly the problem. They should sit down now and begin to organize themselves, arrange themselves, look for friends, look for like minds, because political parties simply mean people who have the same ideology. In as much as I know that Nigerian political parties do not operate on ideologies, but you look at those who have the same inclinations. Let us use that, the same inclinations. If the inclinations border on how to share money or how to share allocations to different communities, that is exactly what people should start now to do, to come together, to aggregate and to try as much as possible to make sure that they form formidable associations that will wade into the center, that will wade into the political system, and then snatch power from the ruling party. That's exactly what I'm thinking about. And you know, it is not easy. It requires what K.O. Mbadiwe referred to as molding the crucible. It is not easy. To mold the crucible is not easy, because it means compelling people with different inclinations into buying to the central cause. That's it. That's the thing. And from all indications, it does not appear as if they are doing it.
Because some of the politicians may not agree with you that it is late, or rather that they should start now. Many of them would think that, or rather think that having just come out of the 2019 elections and trying to settle into governance, thinking of 2023 at this time will be rather unnecessary.
I don't. Well,
because actually, if you go to some of the political parties' offices, they are closed.
Yes.
Which suggests that they will not agree with this position you are holding.
The issue is that we are so used to fire brigade approach in everything we do. We are so used to fire brigade approach. We are waiting for 6 months to the election before we begin to do struggle here and there, try as much as possible to bring in people who are of not like minds, people who do not have the same inclination with us, and then you see them coming together. Before you know it, they won't agree, and then they will separate, like what happened in the 2018 elections. That's the thing, 18-19 elections. So we have to start immediately. Elections have started immediately after that particular one. The particular one, the present one, comes to an end. People sit down and begin to prepare for the next one. That's all. You don't just say, since this one has come to an end, let us sit down and rest. You don't rest. As far as parties are concerned, you don't rest. You struggle to look for like minds. In fact, that is when you begin to poach. Poaching starts from that very time. You poach into the other political parties and begin to snatch people. You start to build up from that very time. So that by the time the next election comes very close, you must have already built up a formidable party, a structure. You must have built up a formidable structure that will enable you push your party forward. That's all.
You made a statement about parties in Nigeria not having ideology.
Yes.
What would you say should be the way to get the parties beginning to build themselves on an ideological perspectives?
You see, we missed it a long time ago. We missed this particular ideological standpoint a long time ago when we stopped talking about ideological underpinnings. We stopped talking about ideological underpinnings a long time ago, and that made us not to begin to think along ideological lines. As it stands now, the political parties that are struggling for power have the same ideology. APC, the PDP have the same political ideologies. That is why you discover that members of PDP can easily switch over. They can easily switch over to APC. Members of APC can easily switch over to PDP. That's the situation. That's the situation. So I think the political parties do not have a particular ideology, just like you have in other countries of the world. I was expecting APC, when APC came on board, to tilt towards what we call, what is known in the US as a democratic party, since they started by highlighting that, they should have talked about being a democratic party, and then leave the PDP with the toga of Republican Party. So I was thinking along that line. But when finally they came on board, I discovered that they are just the same. Just like what happened in Animal Farm. I looked from face to face, from the face of an animal to the face of man, and I discovered that there was no difference. Both of them were drinking milk.
Yeah, drinking milk, but the issue is, must we remain the same?
We shouldn't remain the same. That's why.
So how do we go about it?
Okay, we can go about it by starting now to emphasize. And the press should begin to highlight, to ask this type of question you asked me, in fact, should be continuously asked. You continue to probe the politicians. What is your ideology? So that they will be the consciousness will come into them, will remain in them. They will begin to think about what ideology is. Most of them don't know what you refer to as ideology. So we begin now, the press should begin now to inculcate the idea of having an ideology. That an ideology has to do with the way people organize themselves for production. How do we organize for production? That is what we mean. How do we organize? Do we organize for production by making sure that the welfare of the workers will be taken care of? Or do we organize ourselves for production by making sure that taxes will be reduced for the ruling class? These are the things you talk about. Those who are for the ruling class and those who are for the workers. That's ideology. Like you have the Labour Party in Britain and then the Conservatives. That's what I'm thinking about. Here in Nigeria, what do we have? What do we have? You see the ruling class here and there. They are both in APC and they are both in PDP. Both of them. So that's the thing.
Okay, very well. Still looking at 2023. And we have a situation in Nigeria where some people describe themselves as professional politicians. And you begin to wonder, is politics a profession? Playing politics is a profession? You are in the academia. You have conducted a number of research on politics and parties across the globe before in history and in contemporary times. What is your position on this?
Thank you very much. When I was growing up and when I was in school, it was an anathema for somebody to refer to himself as a politician. It was just an anathema. You don't refer. You must have a handiwork. You must have a profession. You must have something doing, and then you use politics as something that will enable you add value to your society. But today, I've just seen that people just come out of school and without having anything to do. Some don't even go to school. Whenever they come out, they just dabble into politics. And that is why politics today is referred to as a crude profession. Crude profession in the sense that many people do not even know what politics is all about. They feel that what politics is just struggling to acquire power, and once power is acquired, it could be acquired through any means. And once it is acquired through any means, then those who have acquired it will now begin to do a merry-go-round.
And that speaks to the issue of political education.
Yes, political education should be. I feel very happy. I feel very happy when I hear people mentioning this particular concept, political education. Political education. Holding seminars now and then. On how politicking should be conducted. That is very important. You begin to ask people, what are your inclinations? Where do you fall? What do you think you will do for the masses? The more people think about the masses, the more people, you know that those people fall within the what do you call them, the ideology that is more of a people oriented, that is a populist party. But when you see people who are always thinking in terms of building up the bourgeois class, building up the ruling class, cutting down on taxation of companies and some rich farms, then you know that such political parties are more inclined towards the ruling class.
Some people have suggested that we may need to go back to what happened in the past when the military president Ibrahim Babangida introduced two-party system in Nigeria, the NRC and the SDP. Would you subscribe to that?
It is already in practice without being told. That's exactly what is happening now. We have two political parties in our society today. We have the PDP, we have the APC. That's the APC and the PDP. These are the dominant political parties. When Babangida talked about having APC, having NRC and SDP, he did not mean that the other political parties will wither. He said that these two political parties will stand and continue to contest elections. But there should be some other minor political parties that will be struggling here and there. That was exactly what Babangida had in mind when he introduced SDP and NRC. But as it stands now, that is exactly what is playing out. We have two major political parties, PDP and APC. That's the two major political parties. The others are struggling, merely struggling to rear up, especially within the rural areas. They are struggling. That's the only thing. And what has made some of them to succeed in having some senators and members in the House of Representatives is the fact that the two political parties have not been doing well within the rank and file of the society. If they had been having populist policies, paying salaries, paying pensions, and building roads, doing what the people, in fact, building roads, giving people electricity, giving people pipe-borne water, employment opportunity, definitely many people wouldn't have had the interest of voting for any other party. That's the thing. So as it stands now, we are practicing what Babangida introduced without knowing that that's exactly what we are practicing.
Now, during the last election, a lot of parties, more than 70 parties, contested that election. And people began to say, that's too much for Nigeria. That number is rather too much, unwieldy, and should be reduced. Would you subscribe to that?
Yes, I quite subscribe to that. What happened within that very period was a rebellion of the masses. The masses wanted to rebel against the political parties in existence that failed in their duties, failed in their promises. So everybody wanted to control, to posit a particular political party. That was the situation. And you should also bear in mind that some of the politicians, as governors and senators, floated some political parties. They floated some political parties as Plan B. That was what happened. At least I know of one particular governor who floated one political party as his Plan B, so that should anything happen to the one he was in, he could switch over to that particular one. That's the situation. I honestly, it is madness madness for a particular country like Nigeria to float up to 70-something political parties. It shouldn't happen again. There should be some legislation against it, so that the system should have a semblance of sanity.
Yeah, many people have suggested the fact that while we should have those parties in existence, some of them should be a lot more interested in local politics than in national politics. That the tendency for all parties to claim to be national parties makes the existence unnecessary when you can't even win an election in the whole contest. Can't even win a seat, whether at the local level, at the state level, at the national level. You are just there.
You are correct.
What do you recommend?
You are correct. The thing is that if political parties do what they are supposed to do, because every political party is a local political party, since the Constitution says that for you to be a member of a party, you have to start from the ward level. So since political parties are supposed to grow from the ward level, it then means that the wards and the local areas should be taken care of. The only problem is that those who win elections do not remember those local areas that sponsored them. They do not remember, and that is what has led to some of those people from the localities to say, let us sponsor our own political party to enable us to build up, have our own representatives from this particular locality. Every political party is local, starts from the locality, and that is what it should be. Parties should try as much as possible to take care of every nook and cranny of the community, of the society, of the constituency, of the senatorial zone. They should try as much as possible to do that. It is when they fail to do that that they will begin to experience all these things you are talking about here.
If you've just joined us, this is MCLtv, and you're watching The Hot Seat. We'll take a break now. When we return, this conversation with Dr. Mike Dike of the University of Calabar will continue. Don't go away. The need to know arouses curiosity, and the need to inform drives the media. Politics is a way of life. So how politics plays out and its complexities form the issues on Hot Seat. Hot Seat. Politics is laid bare by the gladiators. Join us every Saturday by 10 a.m. Hot Seat, the political arena for the political gladiators.
Do not deface Abia State with posters. Do not defecate on our streets. Do not litter Abia State.
My brothers, I say, what did man go do for this world where people no go talk? If you chop,
Do not urinate in public places.
you no chop, then go talk. What do you make we do for this world? I say, make we dey do the things where we carry for heart. Now so world want that. I be not be so.
Keep Abia State clean.
You're welcome back to the hot seat on MCLtv, and our guest has been Dr. Mike Dike of the University of Calabar. Dr. Mike, I'm sure you have been watching developments in Africa, particularly the xenophobia attacks of African countries, indigenes of African countries in South Africa. As a political historian, I'm sure you are very conversant with the role Africa played in the liberation of the blacks in South Africa, leading to the establishment of African-dominated government in South Africa.
Yes.
With this at the background, what would you consider to be the reason for this recent xenophobic attacks? This is not the first anyway, it's been there, but what could be the reason?
Thank you very much. I think I'll start from somewhere. The problem, one of the major problems that led to that particular development, the xenophobic attacks on Africans in South Africa, was the fact that those who won election, those who actually inherited power from the Europeans, failed in assuaging the interests of the blacks. The blacks who were in the majority in South Africa were expecting a lot from their own people when they came to power. Unfortunately for them, when their people came to power, they couldn't do those things which the blacks had expected them to do. That was one. It was a major problem. So they became so disillusioned, and something happened. That thing that happened was a misdirection. They misdirected their anger. Their anger became misdirected to their fellow Africans. They ignored their leaders and started facing their fellow Africans, bearing in mind that it was their fellow Africans that actually caused the problem they were having. Honestly, if the black leaders who emerged, look at what happened to Zuma. Jacob Zuma started amassing wealth in South Africa when he came to power, to the point that a sitting president was removed. Not only that he was removed, he is now facing trial. That is one. That the money he had acquired, the wealth he had acquired, would have gone a long way in establishing this and establishing that. After all, South Africa is very rich in minerals. Gold, diamond, and all the rest of them. They would have used it in establishing industries in South Africa. That would have helped in calming down these young people, or helped in giving them one type of skill or the other. They were not, such things were not done. They didn't do those things. So these people decided to vent their anger on their fellow blacks. with the false impression that it was their fellow blacks who actually held the key to their problems. That is one. The second thing, which I think happened, was the fact that the whites who found themselves being marginalized decided to withdraw. They decided to withdraw their investments in South Africa. And when they withdrew their investments in South Africa, the economy of South Africa started collapsing. That was the situation.
You pointed out the issue of the failure of government.
Yes.
To deliver.
Yes.
And that's why the local South African black decided to take up the gauntlet.
Yes,
against their fellow Africans and not the government.
No.
Now,
they had already faced the government, but they discovered that there was no way they could face the government squarely. So the best thing was for them to turn around to face these very people that we are very, very much within reach.
Very well. Could it also be the failure of government that led to all these non-South Africans moving into South Africa in droves?
Yes. It is the failure of government in these areas that led these Africans in from other areas, to move into South Africa in droves, because some of them went there and discovered that there were some untapped economic areas in South Africa. So they decided to move into that very place, so as to harness and make profits and make wealth for themselves in South Africa. That was part of it. Otherwise, nothing would have made a Nigerian to go to South Africa. Nigeria is rich, Nigeria is developed, more developed than South Africa. Nigerians would have stayed in Nigeria to develop themselves, develop their skills. But because of the fact that in Nigeria certain things are not playing out well, Nigerians have developed the habit of migrating to other areas, that they shouldn't have ventured into. That's exactly the problem we are having. Failure of leadership. That's number one in Africa. Failure of leadership. That's the most important thing. When Chinua Achebe said it, that the problems of Africa should be traced squarely on the failure of leadership, we thought he was joking, but we have seen that is the thing. If the leader, even in homes, if the father is weak in the home, definitely the home will continue to suffer, and the children from that particular home will not be what they should have been. They will not develop their skills properly. That's as simple as that.
Now, yes, the situation is as it is now. As an international relations expert, are you satisfied with the way the federal government is handling the issue with South Africa?
I don't think so. The worst thing that has happened to Nigeria ever since I knew Nigeria was their reaction to the issues in South Africa. The worst thing. Nigeria played one type of nasty role in that particular, took a very nasty decision. They started prevaricating. That was what annoyed me. Initially, they started prevaricating. The Minister for International, the Minister of External Affairs came up, and we thought that was exactly the time they would have taken a decision. He told us that Nigeria had drawn a red line. That was what he said, that Nigeria had drawn a red line between them and South Africa. And we thought something was about to happen. But nothing happened. Before we knew it, the following day, he came up and started speaking in monosyllables. No. Look, what I had expected Nigeria to do immediately was what Paul Kagame told the world, that Nigeria should have sponsored a situation where South Africa should have been expelled from the African unity. Nigeria should have sponsored it immediately. South Africa should have been expelled. Ganged up, there should have been an impromptu meeting of the Organization of African Union, that's of the African Union, whereby South Africa would have been expelled, because it didn't affect only Nigeria. It affected many countries, including Cameroon. You see, so Nigeria did not handle that matter very well. Nigeria went into prevarication. I don't know what made Nigeria to do that. Beating one step forward and 4 steps backwards, speaking in monotones, and then trying as much as possible to do as if they are about to placate the South Africans. Why? What for? That's the thing. What for? Well, we committed the worst blunder in South Africa, and that was why I hailed that young man who actually volunteered his play to bring back South Nigerians, because it appeared as if Nigerians in South Africa had no father, had no mother, they had no home. So I thank God that that young man brought out his plane and then helped in bringing back those people from South Africa. And some of them swore when they came back that nothing ever would make them go back to South Africa again. And you will see what will happen. South African economy will nosedive. You will see. South African economy will nosedive completely. And they will now begin to call on people to come back. They must do it, because they don't have any option.
Well, there are insinuations in some quarters that many Africans, or some of the Africans in South Africa, were also involved in very illegal activities, including drugs.
Yeah.
And affecting the community. I mean, the South African communities. Wouldn't that be enough reason for South Africans to ask these foreigners to please go?
Where do we not have that type of thing? We have it in America, in the United States of America. We have it. The Mexicans are busy selling drugs in the streets of America. Or different countries. There is no country where you do not have people who are involved in the sale of drugs, all these hard drugs. There's no country where you don't have them. If you go to that South Africa, you will equally discover that, the returning of Nigerians from all these Africans from South Africa will never put a stop to the sale of drugs, because some of them have formed the habit of taking drugs in South Africa, and there is no way they will stop it. I'm sure you must have heard something about what happened in was it China or in Japan, the Opium War. Yeah, the Opium War. I don't want to go into details about this because of time. Otherwise, I would have told you that all these things are just diplomatic propaganda. Just propaganda. They are just propaganda. The South Africans are involved in this type of propaganda in an attempt to have something to say about these Africans who happen to live in South Africa. Nigeria equally has a lot of Africans who are living in Nigeria. We've not killed them. When we wanted to send the Ghanaians back, we packaged them, we handled them very well, we told them ahead of time, look, you will go on so and so day, so begin now to take stock. That was when they started sewing big bags, popularly referred to today as Ghana must go. They started sewing big bags that will accommodate whatever they will take home, because Ghana was very poor by then. Some of them started buying soap, buying cream, buying toilet rolls, and different types of things which the bags would accommodate. And that was how we asked them to go home, and that was how we packaged them back to their homes. We did not just wake up one morning and we started flogging them, started killing the Ghanaians. You must go home. That is how civilized people behave. That is how civilized people behave. Now, South Africa did not behave like a civilized society at all. They did not behave like a civilized society I still believe strongly that South Africa is not civilized.
Very well. Let's come back home. Now that these young men and women from South Africa are back home, how do you think the governments of Nigeria should treat them? Because many of them are no longer employed.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. If you take off from, I don't know whether you know the place I'm referring to. If you take off from here to Ibere, from Ibere to Ohafia, you see what do you call it? Thick forests. Those areas could be harnessed. Those areas could be harnessed, and they could be used for something. Ask those people, let the government clear those areas. I am just talking about Abia State. I'm not talking of any other place. Those areas could be cleared, and these people who have returned could be asked to go there, and then they will be asked to take up some trade, take up some handiwork. This is exactly what we should do.
Handiworks with what? Many of them don't.
Nigeria has promised to give them 20 or 30,000 naira each. Yeah, they promised to give them 30,000 naira each
to start a trade.
No, they are not going to start a trade. Nigeria will use this, give them this, and situate them, clear those areas, build some structures there, and ask them to stay there, and then begin to take care of them. It's a very simple thing for Nigeria if Nigeria wants to do it.
Very well. Let's go back to the politics of 2023. Many people of the Southeast feel that 2023 should be the time a president from the Southeast should emerge in Nigeria. What's your thinking?
I've even posted something on the net on that. I called on the Igbo people to begin to sponsor, to look inwards and sponsor Mogalo. I called Mogalo. I was very, very specific. I said, let us pick up on Mogalo. I use Mogalo because if you look at what is happening in the world today, the young men are the ones. Look at what is happening in Rwanda. Paul Kagame is building up Rwanda in such a way that it is, look, old horses don't play new tricks. The world of today is the world of technology. It is not the world of the past. It is not the world of the past. So we look for young men, and since this young man has come out and his party has succeeded in sponsoring one candidate into the Senate single-handedly, let us think of how the Igbo people can sponsor a particular young man, and somebody, that young man I am referring to is not nobody but Kingsley Moral. Let us sponsor him. Let us call on other Nigerians, because we can't do it alone. Let us call on other Nigerians.
I was coming to that. Well, how the Southeast as a group can just sponsor somebody and it goes. How can it happen without the other component parts of
We call on others. We call on, because others called on us when they wanted their own people to be there. We call on others. Look, this is the man we have brought out. Help us, support us, let us give him. Let them, they will equally ask him questions. They will ask him, throw questions at him, then he will respond. Then we tell the world that we are not here to divide Nigeria. We are not here for separation. We just want to build Nigeria. And this is the man who will help us in building a very strong, united, virile Nigeria.
Very well. In one of your lectures prior to the last general election, you came up with a line of thoughts, which you called, I hope I get it right, alignment, distancing, and reintegrating, something like that. I hope I got it. Looking back, that your position, did it really work in the last election?
Yes.
And how do you think it can also be applied in the 2023 election?
I talked about realignment. I talked about realignment, And I was quoting my friend Key Junior. I was quoting him. He talked about elections being based on alignment, realignment, and distancing. That is to say, if you want to be a member of a political party, you move straight and you join that political party. If you discover that a political party is not doing well, you just go back and switch over to another political party. If that party is not doing well too, you can stay on your own. You can stay on your own without identifying with any political party at all. That is exactly what I meant by that. So it is what happens in political parties. It's either you align or you realign, or you just stay on your own. That is, you become neutral. You become neutral when you feel that these two political parties or these parties that are moving about will not protect your interest. You stay on your own, and that's all.
How do you align this line of thought with the other line of thought of a party having an ideology? How do you place them together?
Ideologies.
Because if a party has an ideology and you went there because you feel you are aligned to that ideology, and then if later you now move to another party, and now you move in the process of alignment and realignment and distancing and all that which you were just said. How do you place them together?
You should understand what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you go to you are aligned with a political party and you discover that political party does not have your own type of ideology, that is when you sit down and realign.
Okay. Well, you've heard Dr. Mike Dike try to let us into this line of thought, though not particularly new, but trying to emphasize it, isn't it?
Yes.
When you are in a political party and you feel it is not giving you what you desire, you need to go realign with some other party,
yes,
or you distance yourself,
yes, you will
and watch for some time.
Exactly.
Very well. And so that's how it's going to be on the hot seat today. I must thank Dr. Mike Dike of the University of Calabar, who is an expert in political history and international relations, for coming to our studio. Thank you indeed, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
And to you there watching us, thank you for sparing your time. We appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you again same time next week. And from all of us here in the studio, this is Chimdi Oloha. Thank you for being with us. Bye-bye. The need to know arouses curiosity, and the need to inform drives the media. Politics is a way of life. So how politics plays out and its complexities form the issues on Hot Seat. Hot Seat. Politics is laid bare by the gladiators. Join us every Saturday by 10 a.m. Hot Seat, the political arena for the political gladiators.
MCL, the word in your home.